Gotta tell you, when I heard I was going to be on a panel with a bunch of writers and poets, I felt incredibly insecure. Because I actually started off my life thinking I was going to be a writer as a little girl, and filled reams and reams of, composition books with stuff that I'd write about. And then when I was a little bit older than you are, Spike Lee's movie came out. And then I decided I was going to become the female Spike Lee. And that didn't quite work out either. But what it did do was help me when I was broken trying to go through graduate school. I had to move back home to my parents' home in the South Bronx. And that changed. Woo, who said that? I now. And it changed my life in some incredible ways, which I'm going to talk about with an article I actually did write, because I do still write some. And because I do believe that, especially when you're working, in poor communities and poor communities of color, you've got to use whatever tools that are available to you in order to get the word out, the message out about what it is you're doing and what's important to you, because it doesn't always come out easily, and so I've been very, very fortunate and consider myself incredibly blessed that I have been able to write. I have a little television show on Sundance Channel where I do these 90-second interviews with people who are doing cool stuff in the environmental movement. I have a national public radio show where I talk to folks that might not seem like environmentalists on the surface, but when you see about and the kind of work that they're doing, you realize that they're talking about us, human beings, as being a part of an ecosystem that's really important. And so the article that I'm going to read you now actually appeared in an airline magazine. They keep in the backseat pockets of planes when you get on. American Airlines called American Way, and it was probably read by a lot of people, which was really kind of cool, back in November of 2007. And it's called "Saving the World, Starting in the South Bronx." A single mom taking her child to that expensive emergency room late at night is less productive at work the next day. She may even get fired if it happens too often. She and her child are more likely to suffer from obesity and diabetes because the trucks, poor air quality, and a dearth of parkland in their neighborhood discourage healthy physical activity. If she owns her own home in an area like this, she is less likely to see its value appreciate at a rate to which most Americans can expect to see their real estate return. When a sewage treatment plant is located near this area, her home can become impossible to sell while the air is further degraded. Building a stinky sewage plant or a sour gas mine or locating it in her community may have seemed like the expedient thing for regulators to do at the time, but now she and her child are paying for that expediency in ways that folks who made those decisions will never have to. Asthma, obesity, diabetes, poor real estate values, unemployment, inequality, even prison. Not the words you might expect to hear from an environmentalist, but they're all connected to the environment. To be clear, I'm an environmental justice activist. For those unfamiliar with the term environmental justice, it means that no community should deal with more environmental burdens and less environmental benefits than any other. Today, race and class are accurate indicators as to where you'll find nice things like parks and trees and cleaner air, and where you'll find people living within walking distance of power plants, sewage treatment plants, diesel truck routes, and highways, coal mines, and or chemical facilities. These are the areas are the point sources for the greenhouse gases that everyone is worried about. The type of pollution that is catching up to all of us in the form of climate change now, but the public health impacts are well known. Public health has direct costs that are made higher by the fact that many poor Americans are uninsured and use emergency rooms as primary care for respiratory diseases like asthma. A Columbia University study demonstrated that proximity to fossil fuel exhaust sources, power plants, diesel trucks, etc., is linked to brain damage in children, a double disadvantage if attending a poor quality school. Some states base 10-year prison construction plans on the number of children reading at a grade level, at or below grade level, by the third grade. By not paying close attention to how we guide our free market forces, we have unwittingly created markets for prisons, a fast-growing industry here in the U.S. If you grew up in a community where environmental justice is in short supply, you will leave if you have the smarts, the support, and some luck. That's what I did. But years later, I returned to my parents' home to make ends meet while attending graduate school, and I saw things differently. My time away gave me a new perspective on the problems we faced and the need for solutions. I worked with a neighborhood cultural organization that engaged local kids. When the Giuliani administration attempted to move much of New York City's municipal waste handling facilities into the South Bronx, I realized that all of the art in the world was not going to save us. We already lived with over a third of the city's commercial waste, a sewage treatment plant, a sewage sludge pelletizing plant, and over 50,000 diesel trucks per week. I worked with several organizations in a combination of old-fashioned door-to-door outreach, street theater, and a grassroots media campaign. We worked to help people understand the connection between all those garbage trucks and their resulting health effects. The response was tremendous, and we beat back the short-sighted plan, laying the groundwork for the city's historic solid waste management plan just signed into law last year. Fending off an offensive proposal like that was a victory, but I knew that we were not going to see the real improvement for local quality of life unless we came up with a plan to make it happen. We conducted a series of community meetings and found, not surprisingly, that people in our poor community valued pretty much the same things people do everywhere: safety, clean air, parks, and jobs. With that information, I founded Sustainable South Bronx, an organization dedicated to environmental justice and formed through innovative, economically sustainable projects informed by community needs. I wrote a $1.25 million federal transportation grant to design the South Bronx Greenway, a network of bike and pedestrian paths that connect neighborhoods to each other and to rivers all around us. And to date, over $20 million in funding is in place to build it, and the construction is scheduled to begin next year. We started Project BEST, Bronx Environmental Stewardship Training, to create a local skilled green-collar workforce with both a personal and a financial stake in the management of our environment. With each successive graduating class, we're taking more people off welfare and cleaning up the environment at the same time. Most recently, we completed an extensive feasibility study for a clean tech-based eco-industrial complex that takes advantage of barge and rail access, reduces truck traffic, and mitigates our growing solid waste load while incorporating greenway plans in its design. Our city government is trying to site a 2,000-inmate jail on the same piece of land in an era of record low crime for New York City, and in the face of a plan that would further reduce the number of prison cells needed by cleaning the air and producing jobs. This response, however, was not unique. All of our environmental solutions must incorporate poverty alleviation through green-collar job creation if we want to succeed. And recently, U.S. Representative from California, Hilda Solis, proposed that type of legislation, Green Jobs Act, that'll help that happen. And I encourage you to support it by emailing your congressional reps. It's easy, and it'll make you feel better, like you've actually done something, because you have. Losing polar bears to climate change is a tragedy, but the slow death sentences we've been handing out to our fellow citizens for decades is an inexcusable moral and economic debt we must begin to repay now. There are communities like the South Bronx everywhere. Let's use this transition moment we find ourselves in to solve our carbon emissions problems as well as our poverty emissions problems. Let's do it together, let's do it well, and enjoy the socioeconomic benefits that'll ripple throughout all aspects of our lives. Thanks.